Once, an ancient sage was asked a question. This question was not about the world, wealth, power, or fleeting pleasures. It was a question that pierced through the clamor of life and reached straight to the heart of reality. A question that has arisen in the minds of every serious seeker for centuries. A great and prosperous householder named Shaaka, who was restless with the thirst for knowledge, humbly approached Guru Angiras and asked, "O revered Gurudev, what is that mysterious thing which if I come to know, I will automatically know everything else?" Just take a moment to contemplate the depth of this question. It is not about gathering millions of different facts or pieces of information, but about knowing that one fundamental element from which the meaning and context of everything else become clear. This is not just some ancient philosophical puzzle. It is a question that resonates within us even in our quietest and most honest moments. When we are tired of our hectic lives and ask, what is all this for? What is the real truth behind this vast, complex, and often confusing world? What is my true nature? The answer given by Rishi Angiras is the essence of the Mundaka Upanishad, one of the deepest and most mysterious spiritual texts in human history. It is not a dry book of rules or principles. It is a living guide. It is a practical map to understanding the ultimate truth, a map to reach an unbreakable and lasting state of peace and spiritual freedom called Moksha. This Upanishad shows us that this freedom is not a distant dream after death, but something that we can attain right here in this life by entering through the door of deep self-knowledge. Mundaka Upanishad, the beginning of a divine dialogue. The Mundaka Upanishad is not a one-sided proclamation of the unknown God from a distance. It is a deep, vibrant, and intimate dialogue between a disciple ready to learn and a guru who has assimilated the truth. Its structure itself is a profound teaching. It tells us that supreme knowledge is not attained by rote learning from books in solitude, but flows from generation to generation through a living guru-disciple tradition of questioning, searching, humble dedication, and sharing. The disciple Shanak is described as a great householder, a person who is fully engaged in the world, who is prosperous, respected, and has fulfilled all the duties of worldly life. And this is a very important point. He is not a renunciant who has turned away from the realities of life. He is someone who has experienced everything the world has to offer, and in the end, found it inadequate and incomplete. His worldly success has not been able to answer the deep questions of his soul. Therefore, his question does not arise from inexperience or escapism, but from deep and mature life experiences. In a way, he represents all of us who live modern lives, surrounded by information, achievements, and material comforts, yet somewhere inside feel a void, that something is missing. Some deep truth that is eluding grasp. Guru Angiras is an important link in a golden chain of self-knowledge, a tradition said to have come directly from the creator of the universe, Brahma. This lineage guarantees the authenticity and power of this knowledge. Guru Shaunaka does not give an easy, ready-made answer. Instead, he begins by drawing a line, creating a basic framework that becomes the foundation of the entire Upanishad. He clarifies two distinct paths of knowledge, creating a crossroads on the road to understanding the true meaning of knowing. This distinction, this division, is the profound knowledge of the Mundaka Upanishad, and in turn, the first great secret to solving the puzzle of our own lives. Mundaka Upanishad, a mystical explanation of the two paths of knowledge. Rishi Angiras explains that all knowledge attainable by humans can be divided into two main categories. Apara Vidya, meaning lower or relative knowledge, and Para Vidya, meaning higher or supreme knowledge. First of all, he talks about the world that Shaunak and all of us know very well. He defines Apara Vidya, that is, lower knowledge. He says that it includes almost all worldly and traditional religious education. It includes the four sacred Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda, phonetics, Shiksha, grammar, etymology, Nirukta, astrology, and the science of rituals, or Kalpa. In our modern world, we can extend this list to include all our sciences: physics, chemistry, biology, our arts, our history, our philosophy, economics, and technology. This is the endless river of data and information in which we dive day and night. In short, it is the knowledge of objects and events. It is the same knowledge that gives us the power to build cities, cure diseases, send spacecraft, and run our complex society. This knowledge is neither bad nor useless. It is valuable and essential for living efficiently in the world. But then, Angiras makes a conceptual explosion. All of this, every part of it, is ultimately lower knowledge. Why? Because it is the knowledge of things that are mortal, that change, that perish, that are not permanent. It relates to countless forms, names, and qualities, but never touches that formless, eternal truth that sustains all those forms. It can give us comfort, security, and success, but it can never give us the one thing we truly long for in the depths of our soul: complete freedom from sorrow, fear, and limitations. It is the kind of knowledge that always leaves us wanting more, because it never tells the whole story. It is only peripheral knowledge, not central. Then Angiras presents the second path, Paravidya, higher knowledge. This is not just another subject to study, nor is it another branch of knowledge. And while the Upanishads clearly point towards it, it is not something you can truly understand merely by reading or listening. Paravidya is the knowledge by which the imperishable element, Akshara Purusha, is known. It is the direct, personal, and immediate experience of the supreme truth, the sole source of creation, which the Upanishads call Brahman. This is a revolutionary shift from knowing about the world to knowing the knower. It is a leap away from the knowledge of the object towards the knowledge of the subject. This is the knowledge that provides the only true answer to Shaunaka's great question. Once you attain it, everything else becomes clear by itself, because you finally see the fundamental element from which everything else is made. Just as, after knowing gold, one understands the essence of all jewelry made of gold. Mundaka Upanishad, the creation of Brahman and the mystery of the spider's web. So what is this imperishable, this Brahman that supreme knowledge reveals? The Upanishads are masters of metaphors to explain the abstract truth, using simple and powerful images from nature to point towards truths beyond ordinary words. To explain how this universe is related to its source, the Mundaka Upanishad gives us a beautiful and profoundly deep example. It says, "Just as a spider weaves its web from within itself and, when the time comes, pulls it back inside. Just as various herbs and plants grow from the earth without any external help. Just as hair and nails grow from the body and head of a living person. In the same way, this entire universe is produced from that imperishable Brahman.
Consider its simple genius and profound meaning. A spider does not need any external raw material to make its web. It weaves that entire complex and beautiful design from the substances of its own body. In this way, the web is an extended part of the spider and yet appears separate from it. The spider can live on the web, walk on it, and finally pull the entire structure back into itself. Similarly, Brahman is not an external creator who stands apart from his creation, like a potter who makes pots separate from the clay. According to this metaphor, Brahman is both the efficient cause and the material cause of the universe. The cosmos, with its countless galaxies and forms of life, along with its thoughts and emotions, is simply a spontaneous flow, a vibration, an expression from this one supreme source. Brahman is the womb of all beings, Sarvabhuta Yoni, a truth that is omnipresent, existing in every atom and every thought, and at the same time transcendental, completely untouched and unaffected by the drama and changes of this entire creation. This understanding changes everything. It erases the artificial line between creator and creation, sacred and secular. If everything comes from this one divine source, then nothing is profane. Everything is sacred. The painful feeling of being a small, isolated individual in a vast, indifferent universe appears as an illusion. Understanding this is not just an intellectual exercise. It is the beginning of the end of deep alienation and loneliness. It shows us that the fundamental element of our own existence is the same as the fundamental element of all existence. Mundaka Upanishad, the story of the self and the supreme self. Two birds. If we are all made from the same divine source, then why do we feel so small, so worried, so bound, and so full of sorrow? Why do we not feel this divine unity and joy in our daily lives? To answer this profound question, the Mundaka Upanishad presents its most famous and poignant metaphor. The metaphor of two birds sitting on the same tree. Imagine a huge peepal tree. This tree is our body, the physical and mental structure in which we reside. On this tree, two birds are sitting, inseparable companions whose feathers are beautiful and golden. They look alike, but their experience on the tree is completely opposite to each other. The first bird, which is sitting on the lower branches, is restless, playful, and active. It keeps hopping continuously from one branch to another, tasting the fruits on the tree. Some fruits are sweet, giving it a moment of pleasure. Other fruits are bitter, causing it pain, disappointment, and sorrow. This bird is completely immersed in its actions and their fruits. Its entire world is defined by the taste of the next fruit. This is the part of us that forms its identity through experiences. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm successful, I'm a failure. This bird is the ego-like soul, called the living being. This is us, in our ordinary, unconscious state of awareness, trapped in the endless cycle of desire, action, and its consequences, tossed here and there by waves of pleasure and pain. This bird is so engrossed in eating the fruit that it has forgotten who it truly is, and it has completely forgotten its calm, indivisible companion as well. But on a high branch of the same tree, another bird is sitting. It is completely still, calm, serene, and majestic. It does not eat the fruit. It is not involved in the drama happening below. It simply watches silently, with a witness attitude and peace. This second bird is completely untouched by the taste of sweet or bitter fruits,
by pleasure and pain. It is pure, luminous, and always free. This bird represents our true nature, the soul, which is silent, witnessing consciousness, the eternal spark of Brahman within us. It is the true I that never changes, no matter what experiences of pleasure or pain the ego goes through.
For a very long time, the lower bird suffers, completely unaware of its friend and its true nature. But then, after tasting a particularly bitter fruit, in a moment of deep sorrow, exhaustion, and helplessness, it stops. And for the first time, it looks up. It sees the other bird, its magnificent and serene companion, sitting in its glory, completely unaffected by its suffering. As the lower, sorrowful bird continues to look at this radiant, peaceful witness, it gradually begins to be drawn toward it. He begins to feel that the glory and peace of the upper bird are his own glory, which he had forgotten. And as he starts to completely merge in the presence of the witness, he experiences a startling and liberating realization. There were never two birds. There was always only one. The sorrowful, fruit-tasting bird was just a reflection, the result of a mistaken identity, merely a shadow. The only reality was that calm, witnessing soul. This is liberation. It is not about running away from the tree or destroying the fruits. It is simply a revolutionary shift in perception, in awareness. It is the transition of your identity from the small, suffering, action-doing ego to the vast, peaceful, witnessing soul. It is the deep realization that your true nature is not the doer and feeler, but the silent, luminous awareness in which all doing and feeling takes place. Mundaka Upanishad, Omkara, Atman, and Brahman. The bow of meditation. This great transformation from identifying with the lower bird to realizing that you are actually the upper bird does not happen merely by intellectually agreeing with the idea. It requires practice, meditation, and deep retraining of the mind. The Mundaka Upanishad gives us another powerful metaphor for doing this inner work, describing the process of meditation as a kind of spiritual archery. It says, "Lift the great bow in the form of Pranava, Om. Place the arrow in the form of the soul on it, which has been sharpened through meditation. With the mind absorbed in that Brahman, draw the bowstring. And, O friend, pierce that target, which is the imperishable Brahman." Let us unfold each part of this spiritual instrument and examine it. Dhanush Pranav is the sacred sound Om, which contains the essence of all the Upanishads. A bow provides power and direction to an arrow. Similarly, chanting Om and meditating on it helps calm our scattered mind, gather all our energy, and focus our entire being towards a single goal. The arrow is your own consciousness, your very own soul. But you cannot use this arrow as it is. Our mind is generally dull and easily distracted due to the worries and desires of the external world, making it incapable of flying straight. The Upanishad says that it should be sharpened by meditation. Sharo hyatma brahma talakshya muchyate. Meditation is the process by which we turn our awareness away from external objects inward, away from the fruits on the tree and towards the witness. A sharpened mind is focused, clear, and capable of entering the deep mysteries of existence. The goal is Brahman, the imperishable, the supreme truth. It is the ultimate destination, the source of everything, the soul of all. It is the reality of the higher bird, our own forgotten form. And the final instruction is the key to this entire process. You must pierce the target with a mind free from negligence and fully focused. Aparamattina vedhavyam, so that the arrow becomes one with the target. Sharavat tanmayo bhavet. This means that the act of concentration must be done with complete focus, dedication, and immersion. The goal is not just to see the target from a distance, but to become completely merged with it. When the arrow of the soul, sharpened by the practice of meditation and shot from the bow of Om, pierces the target of Brahman, the sense of separation dissolves. The practitioner, the practice, and the goal become one. The individual consciousness realizes that it has always been universal consciousness. The lower bird merges into the higher bird. Mundaka Upanishad. Truth alone triumphs, and the ultimate flight of liberation. This entire spiritual journey, from the great questions posed by Shaaka to discerning the ultimate goal through meditation, is essentially a journey of truth. And it is from this great Upanishad that India has taken its national motto, a phrase that presents the essence of the ultimate and definite victory of the spiritual quest. Satyameva Jayate. Ultimately, it is truth that triumphs. This mantra says, only truth triumphs, not falsehood. It is through truth that the divine path called Devayana is opened, upon which the sages, whose all desires have been completely fulfilled, reach the supreme treasure of truth. In the profound context of the Upanishads, truth does not merely mean speaking truth in daily life, although that is certainly an important part of it. The truth that ultimately triumphs here is the supreme, unchanging, and eternal reality of Brahman. And what ultimately fails is untruth, unritam, the illusion of our separate, suffering ego. That is, the mistaken identification of the lower self with its transient emotions and experiences. The victory of truth is the ultimate, unbreakable, and permanent realization of our own divine nature. It is a state where all desires are fulfilled, because the root cause of desire, the feeling of incompleteness, the sense of some deficiency, disappears. When you realize that you yourself are complete, what remains to be desired? The sages who walk this path seek nothing from the world. They rest in the perfection of their own existence. Satyameva Jayate is not just a good moral teaching. It is a statement about how the fabric of reality works. It is a profound assurance for the seeker that the entire universe is ultimately made in favor of self-realization. The illusion of separation, no matter how powerful and convincing it may seem, is inherently temporary. The reality of unity, Brahman, is eternal. Sooner or later, for every soul, only the truth will prevail. This realization is liberation, the state of fearlessness, completeness, and deep peace, where you see yourself in everything, and everything in yourself. The Mundaka Upanishad is not just a text of knowledge. It is a divine call that awakens the soul from within. It tells us that liberation is not a distant goal, but a truth hidden within our own inner nature, which can only be realized by delving inward. This Upanishad goes beyond the words of scriptures and takes one into the depths of spiritual practice, where curiosity transforms into meditation and the knower merges into the known. The knowledge of the Mundaka Upanishad leaves us with a final, beautiful, and profound image to describe the liberated sage. Just as flowing rivers abandoning their individual names and forms, ultimately merge into the great ocean and become the ocean itself. Similarly, the wise person, freed from name and form, merges into that divine, supreme, transcendental truth. A river can be called the Ganges, the Nile, or the Amazon. It has its own definite shape, a direction, and its journey. But when it reaches the sea, all that distinction disappears. Its existence does not end. It becomes the sea. It transforms its limited, confined identity into an infinite and boundless identity. The same thing happens with the liberated soul. Name, personality, ego, all those things we think make up the I are like the two banks of a river. When Apara Vidya, that is, the dawn of higher knowledge, occurs, these boundaries dissolve, and our individual consciousness recognizes its true form as the vast, infinite, and peaceful ocean of Brahman. The journey described in the Mundaka Upanishad is the greatest and most meaningful adventure that a person can undertake in their life. It is a journey from a question to the supreme answer, from lower knowledge to higher knowledge, from a suffering ego to the witnessing soul, and ultimately, from a solitary, limited river to becoming the universal ocean. To discover this truth in your life, you do not need to run into a forest or sit in a cave. Just start paying attention to the two birds within you. Observe that restless, chattering mind that is always chasing happiness and running away from pain. That is the lower bird. And then, sometimes, in the quiet moments of the day, see if you can become aware of that silent, peaceful presence that is simply watching all this without any judgment. This simple shift of attention is the beginning of that great path. This is the sacred moment when the lower bird first looks upward. If this knowledge has touched your inner self, do not stop here. Please like this video, share your feelings in the comments, and definitely share it with any curious soul who is on the path of self-realization. And yes, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more such profound and meaningful topics. This is the way to keep this journey of knowledge ongoing among us. Thank you very much for joining this journey into the depths of knowledge.